Alright everybody, we're going to be reacting to Best Champion Tier List, Low Elo Patch 2.4b, Wild Rift, LoL Mobile.
Greetings summoners, my name is Kirks and today we have our patch 2.4b tier list, going over the strongest and weakest picks in the current meta. This specific tier list will cover play up to Platinum, since we'll have a separate high elo tier list coming out later. In this video, we rank the picks assuming that the players using these mentioned champions do not have a full understanding of every mechanical nuance. But before we begin, we have a question of the day. If you had to choose a champion to go on vacation with, who would you go with and why? Be sure to
Ahri.
leave your answers down in the comments below. Now, let's dive right into it. Our first pick of the day is Wukong, who has jumped up into the OP tier list for this list. In patch 2.4b, he received a buff that granted the healing first ability, Golden Staff, the full effect when hitting minions. This allows him to sustain effectively in lane. Though this doesn't seem like a major change, sustainability is super important for Baron laners, since the one-on-one matchups tend to become more intense fights of who can survive better over the extended period of time. And since the Monkey King wasn't necessarily weak as a champion overall, with plenty of damage and utility built into his kit, he rightfully deserves his throne as one of the strongest Baron lane champions for the low elo. The second champion is also called the devil himself. It's Teemo. He's a solid A tier pick for the Baron lane. Please don't use this video as an excuse to insta-lock the pick, since you're sure to receive backlash from your team. But in all honesty, he's quite strong at the moment with excellent damage and very annoying shrooms. These poisonous traps serve as a last line of defense for your base and are surprisingly very effective at clearing minion waves. Since pink wards don't exist and most people don't build sweeper, abuse Teemo's invisible traps and camouflage capabilities to kill unsuspecting targets and carry your games. Last but also least is Cinch in the C tier picks. He had some time in the spotlight when he was an absolute garbage, but since patch 2.4b nerfed Haunting Guys, Cinch is back down at the bottom of the Baron lane picks. The AP item provided him with magic penetration that was necessary for the mad scientist's poison trail. But since the item provides significantly less damage, Cinch now lacks the DPS required to put him through laning phase. He wasn't very strong to begin with, and the Haunting Guys and Leona definitely weren't targeted towards him, but Cinch was still hit by the unexpected backlash. Before we move on though, if you're looking to join a community, join our ProGuards Wild Rift Discord. We hold regular events and giveaways, so what are you waiting for? Here's the full low elo Baron tier list. Next up is the jungle, with Rammus up first. The Armadillo is really strong, and since he's super easy to maneuver, he easily makes the S tier for this specific list. Marksman and AD champions as a whole are rather powerful in the current meta, and Rammus is the perfect counter against attack damage reliant carries. Many of his skills scale with armor, making it an absolute menace when playing against a primarily AD team composition. Be sure to abuse his speed and crowd control to flank the enemy and lock them down until they die from the reflected damage and AoE splash damage from Rammus' kit. He's really not that hard to play, so focus your attention on the map rather than worrying about every nuanced mechanical detail. As long as you do that, you should be able to play at least okay. The second champion in the A tier for this list is Pantheon. Although conventionally played in the Baron lane, he's become a pocket pick for the jungle that relies heavily on ganking very early on in the game. Simply clear 2 or 3 camps and run around for kills thereafter. Since Pantheon has a point-and-click stun alongside a teleporting ultimate, the map pressure he exerts onto the enemy team is rather absurd, especially when he gets fed. The only issue with the pick is though that he falls off in the later stages of the game, which means if he cannot effectively carry a lead from the early game on, he becomes rather weak. The last pick here is Mundo in the B tier. Since Warmox received some hefty buffs for the champion, who is actually relying on building AP, the item is a very welcomed addition to Dr. Mundo's staple builds. Since Mundo's abilities cost HP, he is very reliant on his natural regeneration to function properly. In this case, Warmox synergizes very well with these mechanics by granting him more regeneration and a bigger health pool to draw from, therefore making Mundo a pick that is a bit more relevant in the current patch 2.4b. And this is the full jungle tier list. And if you haven't looked over the newest patch notes, just check out the rundown video to inform yourself of the current new changes in the Wild Rift scene. Moving on to the middle lane. Ahri comes first here in the OP tier list for the list. A lot of AP champions were bumped down the pack because of the Haunting Guys nerfs. But Ahri in this case is not part of them. This patch buffed Luden's Echo and Awakened Soul Stealer, both of which Ahri can easily make use of. Awakened Soul Stealer is more situational, technically you never buy it, but well, it's a buff, so who knows. But Luden's Echo will be undoubtedly a powerful item on the Nine-Tailed Fox. Ahri is overall a very easy champion to play. She has a lot of safety for her ultimate and crouch control through her charm. For those of you who are looking to play a slippery AP damage carry, definitely give Ahri a try. The second champion up in the mid lane is Galio in the A tier for this list. Since Katarina was nerfed relatively hard this patch, Galio, her direct counter, has more breathing room to see play. Many patches ago, he got hit hard by nerfs that drastically impacted his viability in the meta, while Katarina continued to see more and more play, at least in solo queue. She's a pop stomper, she's amazing in this instance. She became so strong that although Galio's abilities on paper countered Katarina, it simply didn't matter. She could just take over the game and move at speed so fast Galio couldn't keep up. So the recent nerfs to the Bladed Assassin alongside Haunting Guys, one of her core items, allows the Colossus to once again step back into relevancy in the meta. The last mid lane champion for this list is Diana in the A tier. She excels in team fights thanks to her area of effect knock-up ultimate ability. All it really takes is one good engage with her ultimate to create a window of opportunity for her teammates to follow up, thereafter cleaning up the wounded enemies. The issue is that her laning phase isn't the strongest anymore, since her skill rely heavily on engaging. So if you choose a bad trade and dash into the enemy laner, chances are that you're going to be punished, since she doesn't really have a good escape if you mess up the Q reset on the E. So especially that mechanic is very important to take note of. Look for the resets on the marks with Q and E. Once you get the hang of this, you'll be 10 times the better player on this champion. And here's the full mid lane tier list. Next up are the AD carries with Jinx up first. For this specific list, she is still in the OP tier. She is capable of utilizing the new crit items added in patch 2.4, making her rockets hit even harder than they did before. In the average levels of play, she's an absolute pop stomper since her attacks deal splash damage, allowing her to steamroll during teamfights thanks to her reset. But keep in mind she's only overpowered in the lower elo, since the more skilled players are perfectly capable of collapsing on the pick before the gunslinger can snowball. And since she doesn't have any escapes built into her kit, any skilled frontline carry or assassin is perfectly capable of bursting her down. With Kaisa, we have the second pick in this list in the S tier of this list. She's a really solid pick, aka broken, but mobility, invisibility and damage all built into a single champion's kit. Her build path is a bit outdated since the champion doesn't necessarily utilize the new itemization options to their fullest extent, but that's because she doesn't really need to. The longsword, BF, Vampiric Scepter Rush or Executioner's Calling Rush is still absolutely broken, since the early upgrade on her first ability is stronger than practically any completed AD item in the game. This allows her to scale from a very early point on in the game, and since she's actually a late game hyper carry, she doesn't have many weaknesses to exploit in that regard. Now on to the last AD carry of this list. Jhin in the B tier of the list. He's a prime example of an AD carry that has been left behind by the meta. He doesn't have an escape, enough DPS, or even powerful enough auto attacks. Even with his force shot, he just cannot carry a teamfight. Additionally, a lot of the itemization options recently released don't fit him at all. And since a lot of the other champions have been benefiting from these additions, Jhin has been displaced for the most part. Unless you're super skilled at the champion and you're very confident in hitting all his skill shots, he is not gonna deal enough damage to warrant a pick. Of course, if you do hit your skill shots with an amazing accuracy, he is still pretty okay, but not near as close to being good enough. Let's be honest, there are just other marksmen that don't have to rely heavily on those skill shots and are just better in every regard. Here is the full AD carry tier list. Let's start the support tier list with Lulu, a pick that has been gaining more spotlight as the patch 2.4 goes on, as Lulu didn't receive any real buffs, but every AD carry was buffed through the roof, which makes her kinda broken if you think about this. She's a solid S tier pick for this list since she's super easy to play. She excels at boosting the capabilities of her teammates as in hyper carries, and in all honesty, it's the perfect pick if you want to help your allies. You'll see them carry everything because you boost their damage insanely high. Next up comes Braum, who's also in the S tier of this list. This pick is still pretty strong, albeit not as broken as it used to be, especially when paired up with a competent AD carry who knows how to abuse his passive. The utility that Braum provides during a teamfight is actually insane. He just needs to hit everybody once and, well, then they're just gonna die. And fortunately, since the muscle man is incredibly beefy, he can just run in front of his team with the shield and protect them from any kind of damage that's incoming. So he received nerfs a few patches ago, but the fundamental functionality of this kit hasn't changed, therefore allowing him to remain a very strong pick in the game, especially in an AD carry oriented meta. Now it's time for the last pick of this list. In this case, Leona, who's in the A tier of the list. She's a decent pick that truly shines when you're locking her in as a direct counter matchup. The reason for this is that Leona can be easily arrested in lane by certain champions. With this, she can be zoned and thereby she's just made a minion. But all it really takes is that one engage to get the snowball rolling. If you can land your Xenoblade on the support, especially if the enemy support is a squishy enchanter with no escape or crowd control, she can easily burst them down with the help of their AD carry. Just lock them down long enough for your allied AD carry to chunk them down. Other than that, the moment you hit level 5, all you have to do is hit your ultimate and anything in your way will just die. Here's the full support list. Okay, thanks for watching, and don't forget, this is a patch 2.4 low elo tier list, therefore it's more relevant for ranks below Emerald. We have a separate high elo tier list coming out later this week, so be on the lookout for that. If you've enjoyed the content, be sure to like and subscribe for everything Wild Rift related. Until next time, stay safe and have fun.
Awesome. I'm definitely gonna pick Ahri more. And maybe Jinx.